If you're a Pittsburgh baseball fan, then this is the podcast for you. Make your way down, grab a beverage, and get ready to talk Pirates with myself, Craig Toth, and Scott Jackson, two of the biggest fans you'll ever meet. This is Bucs in the Basement.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say one thing, but then the next day it's different. They change, but they don't know what they want. All they do is change. Going left, going right, travel day, travel night. That's where we'll go. No excuses, no goodbyes, no one cries, no one lies. We'll never know.
I have no idea how we're going to get through a full show here because the Pirates have given us absolutely nothing to talk about. No billboard material, no wacky plays, no injuries, no nothing. I mean, Scott, what are we going to do here for 30 minutes plus?
Maybe we can run down some of our favorite concourse foods because apparently there's nothing happening on the field to talk about.
I can't wait to try those Polish cannonballs, though. I mean, in all honesty, and then I saw the kielbasa sandwich or what. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And as everybody knows, I actually liked the Renegade dog. It got made fun of and all that kind of stuff. But dude, I had that one night and I didn't have to eat for the rest of the night. It was fairly filling. But yeah, Scott, there's obviously a lot to talk about. But first, I have to ask you, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm liking this Thursdays off kind of thing for the team. You know, because I can print out the stats and look at the stats all day, and they're not going to change at the last minute, and we can give some analysis. But yeah, a big series heading into as big as it can be the first month of the season, heading into Cincinnati. You know, if you can make some ground on a division rival, then all eyes will be on that this weekend.
Yeah, and you have less games against your division rivals. So, I mean, in some ways, those become a little bit more important to kind of take those and to be able to gain ground within your division. I mean, obviously, it would be nice to be one of those teams at the top of division and you're, going for that, number one seed or whatever that may be. But I mean, at least for right now, and you're saying like, especially early on in the season, like these games where if the Cardinals sweep us, it has a little bit more of an effect on the standings, especially within division, than it would be. I mean, you don't want to get swept by anybody. But yeah, I mean, to take 2 or 3 from the Cardinals going into the Reds, also off to a little bit of a slow start. The big red machine has not been started up yet. But I mean, a little bit of housekeeping here. We could talk about kind of like let's just get the off the field stuff out of the way because I know that both you and myself, big baseball fans, and just kind of want to talk about the game and not even the game within the game to a degree. But yeah, I mean, the Pirates can never seem to get out of their own way. 2 little PR snafus, actually pretty big PR snafus, as it would be towards the Clemente sign, and then the Bucco bricks. First off, the Clemente sign, I think it was Pittsburgh Clothing Company. Just put a little snapshot out there. Roberto Clemente Jr. comments about it. Surfside vodka something. I've never even really heard of that. I mean, I think I've heard of like Topo Chico and some other ones, but whatever Surfside is, they sell the ad space and Pirates fans lose their mind. Yeah, when you are losing, when your team is already, kind of like they have a target on their back to begin with, especially the ownership, the front office group, anything like this that happens, not going to be taken very well by the fan base. But Scott, I want to get your take on this situation, and then I'll give mine as well. I feel like they're going to be fairly similar, though.
Yeah, I think it's the timing thing in part because, wow, I think we forget coming out of Florida, it seemed like the season was over already. And the sentiment of the fans, the mindset was already that kind of negativity. But might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think that, especially with the reports that came out about the financial situation of the team, you got to sell the advertising space where you can. It's not like they had a big ceremony, s- you know, with this new sign. It's a cool looking logo. I love the font, the early '90s font. It's what a throwback to like the Three Rivers, Clemente stuff. But and you can say whatever you want to say about the organization. There's plenty of faults. They handled so many things poorly. But one thing you cannot, absolutely cannot say about this organization is that they don't respect Roberto Clemente. They have his name, his picture, his number all over that stadium. They named the wall after him. They incorporated his legacy into the stadium. They put they've had the statue for years. It was outside of Three Rivers. They named a bridge after him. He is everywhere at and around PNC Park in the most reverent ways possible. So to say that this was some kind of slight, I think it is fans that are justifiably upset with certain things with the front office and the ownership and the product on the field, venting, finding some way to pile on to the organization.
Yeah, and to me, like it was kind of like the same way as with anything with the Pirates, it feels like that they just kind of go about and do things and run their business and don't consider who their consumers are. And they can't really read the room. It's like that one friend that kind of comes in and just makes that like comment where it's just it's going to set off some people. It's going to get under people's skins, and it's like you walk in and everybody has a frown on their face, and you come in all happy and start telling jokes, and somebody looks at you and say, read the room. Well, that's like the biggest thing for the Pirates right now is, I mean, there was already this stuff. I mean, especially like Travis Williams is up there at Pirates Fest, and it got shut down pretty quickly by Greg Brown, but there's some sell the team chance. You see this movement. It's kind of stuff's being put out there. Pirates fans already are saying, I mean, just check out social media for 5 minutes over the offseason, and you'd be like, yeah, man, they really think we didn't do enough. Uh, and just the fact that you have a plane flying over the stadium that's saying sell the team, different stuff like that. And, little stuff like this is going to set them off. I mean, for God's sake, I know that my friend Gary Morgan, he does Locked On Pirates now, but does the Pirates Fan Forum, is still on a crusade about the nacho cheese, for your nachos. I mean, people in Pittsburgh, we notice these kind of things. But the other piece is that, I mean, John Drecker was out there saying, like, this isn't even like, the worst thing that the Pirates have done. I mean, we talked about like the Legacy Square where there was the honoring of the retired numbers, the Negro League players, that was made such a big deal as when it was put in at PNC Park, and I don't even remember what year that it left, but I mean, I can definitely remember walking into the park and saying, "Oh yeah, the place that we want to go look," and like pointing my friends in this direction. It's right over by Legacy Square, and I'm like, oh, "Where'd all this stuff go?" Do you know what I mean? So, like, I mean, Pirates fans kind of get attached to that stuff. They recognize that kind of stuff, and I mean, when the temperature in the building is the way that it was on opening day, the way that it has been this entire offseason, I mean, something like that and the way that social media is, all it takes is two pictures side by side, one of, Clemente's number there and one with a Surfside can. And I mean, people will completely forget that. I mean, that was always an ad space.
Yeah.
I mean, during the Great Blackout game, I think somebody put up there was like a T-Mobile sign or something in that space. So I mean, yeah, to me, if it had been there since the stadium was there and since it was put in, and like you said, it was like the dedication of the stadium. This is, to Roberto Clemente. The wall is 21 feet. The number of times I have leaned over to somebody while watching a Pirate game and said, if Clemente wore the number 16, 15, 12, that would have been a home run. I mean, that is ingrained in my brain, and I never even saw Clemente play. Yeah, they honor him and all the stuff that you brought up. But just clicking in my head here is if it was there from the time that the stadium was built. And that just slides us right into the next topic because it's the Bucko bricks, because those have been there. I mean, they may have been replaced here. I mean, I know the Pirates are reporting that, that was like this is like the third iteration of those bricks. Um, I'm thinking maybe that there were some bricks that may have been broken over time and have been replaced. I don't know if I've ever seen the full, excavation of the bricks and taken away and those put back in. But you know what? Yeah, I mean, I could probably see some of those bricks being replaced. The biggest thing to me here is that, yeah, those were there. When PNC Park was built, it was kind of like, even though it wasn't this ownership group officially, they were minority owners in the team at that time and knew that, people were saying, like, this is being built and you're going to be a part of this being built. You're going to be a part of, PNC Park's legacy. And then, not without warning, and we'll get into that, those bricks are gone and no real answers about them. And did they not think somebody was going to find them, like, I don't know, 3-4 miles down the river? They didn't think there would be a Pirates fan walking around like someplace saying, those kind of look like those Bucko bricks, and take a picture of it, send it to the news. And I mean, the news had already been asking about it for the past few days before that. So, I mean, get ahead of the story. That's another thing. Like, just get ahead of the story. Be honest, open with the fans. What's going on? I mean, it's just a wild situation where two things come out within a matter of a week. That's all on the PR team, and bumbled, snafu. I mean, just use any words you want to. Just not a good look for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, and I think that these are things that they should have learned by now that people are going to question. So when they first announce, hey, these are part of the renovations that we're going to be doing in the off season, have a plan or get out ahead of it, like we said, and say we are going to remove the Bucko bricks. We're going to find something to do with them. There's so many different things they can do. They could take the messages and they could put them on a video board and have them scrolling. They could have taken them out of the sidewalk and made a wall out of them. I was telling you beforehand, I had this vision in my head of like part of the wall being of the stadium being replaced by these Bucko bricks, and people walking up like like the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and saying, "Oh, your grandfather bought this for us 20 years ago. He's passed now, but this is part of his legacy that's tied into the team," and etching it or whatever they want to do, or taking pictures with it, making it part of that. One of the things I said to you before we started recording is because of the losing that's happened for the past few decades, the fan base has shrunk. It's not fashionable to be a Pirates fan anymore, and so the fan base is smaller than it was. That's why it's more intimate, and so the organization needs to be better with communicating with the fans it does still have, and being outright and forthright with them and saying, okay, we are changing things, but and that's part of the thing too. Pirate fans are very conscious of their history, and the history is very important to us because we don't have much to hold on to right now. So if the team was winning, if the team was being successful, then maybe we could move away from the past a little bit. When I had partial season tickets for that stretch of like '06, '07, '08, it seemed like, there was all kinds of anniversaries, and it was, celebrating the 79 team and the 71 team and the 60 team and the teams older than that. And it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we respect the history, but I didn't see any of those teams play. I'm worried about the players now. And so if the players now can step up and they can create an exciting summer, all this stuff will be forgotten because we'll have something to focus on that isn't in the past.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, the biggest thing that I was thinking of is I mean, as you're taking those out, I mean, obviously some of them, may break, whatever it is. I mean, I've taken up a floor in my kitchen and I'm not going to take it out. You're trying to get out all of those up and stuff. But I mean, if you gave the Pirates fans and said, and I knew that they were, going to have to take this up. There was an article that came out in January. I'm assuming that not every Pirates fan saw that because I mean, not every Pirates fan is thinking about the Pirates in January and is, searching through articles and trying to come up with ideas for podcasts and different stuff. But I had seen that. Now it's kind of coming out that this project was approved back in September. So basically, you've had 7 months to come up with an idea. This is like the biggest thing for me as to what was going to happen with these. And every single time when they're answering these questions, it's like there will be something done within and this is the 25th anniversary season of PNC Park. So if we're talking about anniversaries, like, I mean, they couldn't even finish the beer garden or whatever they're doing, the plaza across. That was supposed to be ready for opening day. That wasn't ready. So, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be shocked, but I mean, if you're trying to take care of the fans and just basically saying, okay, yeah, you're walking in and this concrete looks a little bit different and you're not walking across what looks like an old cobblestone street in Pittsburgh, because those still exist. Yeah, you're walking across this concrete, but if you go down by the river walk, if you go over where, the Mazeroski statue is at, we've added to that wall and we've put all the bricks surrounding that or whatever it may be. But then even now there's like no idea. So like to me, like even if there is an idea, there's no idea. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what Pirates fans will think. It's like whatever they come up with, it'll be like, well, they were just flying by the seat of their pants. If you have an idea, you've already upset the fan base. Come out and basically tell them, okay, this is what we were thinking about doing that with them. Yeah, we probably should have, told you these were being tore up and given times for like, I don't know, a few weekends where you could have come down and at least look for your brick to try to get it back. I don't think we'd be able to set them up in the exact same way if you knew where your brick was at. But I mean, if you really want it back, take a couple hours with your family members on like a Saturday or something and go down and try to find your brick and you got to take it. Okay, that would have made a little bit more sense. But to me, the bigger thing is they're going to show up on opening day. People are going to notice something strange. People already asked back in that January article of what was going to happen with them, kept on saying you had a plan for it. You had to know this question was coming and to basically say, oh, yeah, something will happen during the 2025 season and not give a specific example, to me is just another thing of like, to Pirates fans to just get upset about, where you could have, I mean, God, you had 6 months to come up with an idea. We came up with ideas in like 2 minutes. Wall around here, put it over here, put it into the stadium, take away just a little bit of a pace, put them up. It could have been done.
Well, to be fair, they did have a plan. Take them to the dump, and they executed the plan.
Yeah, they just didn't execute it by like break them up beforehand so they don't look like exactly like they are and you can't read the stuff on it. Cover them with a tarp. I mean, in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh here, we are very good at covering stuff with tarps for the wintertime. So I mean, just cover it with a tarp, whatever it may be, just to hide it.
Just throw them in a wheelbarrow and dump them in the river. I mean, do it at night when nobody can see you. And
Yeah, I mean, come on.
get rid of the evidence.
The river was right there. The idea was right there. Just take them and just throw them into the river. That river, you can't see in that river. It's kind of brownish.
God knows what's at the bottom of that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to find that stuff anyway. But yeah, I mean, okay, I got to get past this type of stuff just because, yes, I mean, I understand the feelings behind this. I have a buddy whose dad had just passed away in October, and he had got one, his dad did, for him and his entire family with their four names on it. And it just basically, like, for him, like, first opening day without his dad, like, you want to go down and see that, and you don't have that. So these feelings and emotions, and we know that feelings and emotions are tied into sports as well. But like I said, I just think it basically comes back to just read the room, read the temperature of the fans last year. I mean, it was getting to the point of frustration last year because you were supposed to compete. And then the off season and everything like that. Just please do one thing right for the fans, and especially the ones who are the diehard fans that bought these bricks. There's like what, 10,000 of them. It's not like there's like 60,000 of these bricks. 10,000 diehard fans bought these bricks. At least be good to, I mean, they're good to the season ticket holders. I mean, believe me, at times. So be good to those fans.
Yeah. I don't know what's different. It seems like there's a disconnect there because we know that Travis comes from the Penguins, and there must be some kind of um, difference of culture, or maybe it's the goodwill because the Penguins have been successful for so long, just like the Steelers. Um, you have to tread lightly when you're involved with the Pirates because everything you do is under a microscope because the fans are already angry.
I mean, Travis has to know that he's like a meme on like Facebook and on Twitter and whatever it is. You know, whenever anything's wrong with the team, it's like a meme of him pointing towards something like, well, at least we have pretzels, at least we have this, at least we have new food, at least we have all this different stuff. And I mean, I give Travis Williams all the credit in the world, and I guess we're not going into baseball stuff just yet, but give him all the credit in the world for, you know, what he does with, you know, the Pittsburgh Charities, what he did with the River Walk, what he did, you know, in center field, in the outfield, to, you know, put those seats right up against where people would stand. Because I can remember going with my son, and you couldn't stand where the bullpen was at, and security would actually move you along when my son just wanted to, you know, just kind of watch them. And they actually put seats in there. They put in the new bars there. They've done, you know, everything to kind of make the stadium look, I mean, you know, really, really good. But in the end, I mean, part of the business thing is, I mean, we are your consumers. We're Pirates fans. So, I mean, yeah, there's some things you can probably get away with. I mean, especially if you're winning, but if you're losing, like, we talk about the team on the field like having to win within these margins. Well, if you're the front office, the stuff that you do has to also be within, you know, certain margins.
Isn't it a shame that there are actual meaningful games happening and the season has started and you know the front office themselves and their poor decision and poor communication gave us 20 minutes of material right out of the gate, and we haven't even talked about the stuff that's happened on the field yet.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't you have given this in the offseason when we're struggling for material? I mean, we didn't need this. We have a lot of baseball to talk about. Are you looking for coverage of all four major sports leagues? NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. Look no further than SportsVival. At SportsVival, they are dedicated to providing quality sports analysis, up to date news, and original content with a focus on draft and prospects, analyzing how teams are built and how franchises evolve through their strategic decisions. Without sports, how would we survive? SportsVival, proud partners of Bucs in the Basement.
We talked about the division opponents and making ground when you can, and they dug themselves out of the hole, or close to it. Now a sweep in Cincinnati puts us at 500. So when we went from seeming like everything was over, that the season was done already, to now we're seeing small sample size and seeing an opportunity going into Cincinnati against a team that hasn't been the hottest either, um, and an opportunity to get to 500 if they can pull off the sweep. But I think that what we saw in the series against St. Louis is a little more our pace, and it's always nice to see scuffling Cardinals. But I think the Pirates are starting to put some things together um, the offense you would have hoped could have maybe, especially when you're gifted a runner at second base, to maybe score a few more runs. But you got to like what you saw with some of the defense, maybe some of the approaches, the pitching. Mitch Keller had a fantastic outing.
How many rest days did Mitch Keller have there, Scott? Because you know that I put something out about this. He was on his
Yeah.
normal schedule. Mitch Keller, when he's on his normal schedule, is a completely different pitcher. And I know that it wasn't the Yankees, but you did have a red hot Cardinals team,
Mhm.
one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball at the time. And he pretty much, shut them down. He didn't have his, lights out stuff, and he may not to be able to, get through that many innings, but locating his pitches, looking crisp, looking clean, looking. I mean, he doesn't have a huge build, but I mean, Keller kind of is like one of the workhorses in here, and he stepped up in a time where, the night before, I mean, it's come to be assumed by Pirates fans that Paul Skeens is going to come out and give up one or two runs at the most, strike out like 7 to 10 batters, and the Pirates are going to lose because they can't score any runs. It's not going to be the opposite where Skeens gives up 4 or 5 runs and looks you know less than godly, I guess it would be.
Right.
And, the Pirates, obviously put together, they only scored like 3 runs in that game, but put together a little bit of fight towards the end. And yeah, I mean, so yeah, Mitch still is showing that he is kind of a dog within that rotation. I would hope that that would continue. But to me, like, that's something where it's just like, if I'm an idiot who can look up just the splits on baseball reference and you have however many analysts like sitting in a room someplace and it's like, man, maybe we should have started Mitch on one of those days down in Tampa or something, because the more days rest he has, the worse he looks. And yeah, he just didn't have it. I mean, at all on opening day. And
Yeah.
I think the discussion was, well, at least Mitch is pitching because Skeens isn't pitching on opening day. God, I don't care who, and we talked about this, I think, the last episode. I don't care who pitches on opening day. Like, you have to set these guys up to succeed. So that's just like another little thing right there. Glad to see him bounce back, but you definitely talked about the offense. And the offense in some ways is being affected by, injuries and stuff. And not that Triolo's a huge offensive weapon, but I mean, it's pretty much been a trickle down from, opening day and even prior to that. I mean, we have Spencer Horwitz down before the season, Nikki G going down. We have Brian Reynolds, as a DH. You have, now Triolo with a little bit of an injury and a little bit nicked up. So it kind of is challenging that depth to the point where Adam Frazier's having to play almost every day. Don't believe that was the intent during this season. Valdez is getting a decent amount of games at first base because the only other option really over there, I mean, especially with the Triolo injury, is Endy. Um, and then, yeah, you're calling up Sung Che Chang. I think that by the end of the year, everybody will be able to pronounce that name right. I wasn't able to pronounce it right until I learned from John Moses how to pronounce it, the announcer down in Altoona. Everybody, it's Sung Che Chang. Gets the call up, good defensive, but I don't know if his bat's ready. So, yeah, I mean, that's where, like, yeah, you need Reynolds to step up, be consistent. You need Cruz to step up, be consistent. Brian Hayes, I think, underratedly is having like a fairly solid start to the season, health
Yeah.
especially. Um, but yeah, there's a lot going on and a lot that could go in a good direction, but a lot of challenges, kind of right out the gate.
Yeah, Hayes with the defense. I mean, he's known for his defense, but when he's healthy, you just see that it's at that next level. And at least three fantastic plays yesterday. The bare hand on the slow grounder, the Of course, the heads up nature after the collision at home plate to pick up the ball and tag the runner, and then catching Arenado off a third late in the game. That was a huge play. So yeah, you're seeing Hayes being a difference maker, and just to double back onto Mitch a little bit, it seemed like facing a young, aggressive Cardinals team that he challenged them and was able to be very efficient with his pitches because he was challenging them and getting some good contact and swings and misses. And talking about the defense as well, with Cheng coming up, and I was very impressed with his defense, and that's been his calling card in the minor leagues. And the strength of his arm, his range, his mental acuity for the defense. We've talked a lot about IKF and maybe him not being the best fit at shortstop. With Nikki G and Triolo hurt, does this give us an opportunity where IKF goes to second base and Cheng gets more opportunities at shortstop?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see that. I mean, obviously in the end the bat is going to have to play.
Yeah.
I mean, just because I mean IKF is off to a hot start, but his
Hmm.
bat has kind of been leading the charge on everything. But I mean, in the end, like if Chang hits, if IKF continues to hit and are both in more comfortable defensive positions until Nikki G hopefully comes back. I mean, I did see the report out there that he's allowed to start putting some weight on it. I know that's probably going to be some like slight weight, more of like the walking boot type of thing. He has it on before, but as we talked about last week, he was almost in that little stroller type thing where he had to like kind of scoot around. Uh, but yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense as well, just because, like I said before, I don't think that we expected Frazier to play this much. I think that it's kind of overexposing him.
Hmm.
When we were seeing him a little bit towards the beginning, he was the guy that was coming through in those clutch hits. I think that he still could be that guy at this point in his career, more as like a bench piece, a spot starter, a pinch hitter at the end of the game, but not a guy that's getting three, four, five, and especially if you get these longer games, six at bats in a game. It's definitely overexposing him to a degree. And honestly, like for the time that the Chang is going to be up here, I would rather see him get as many plate appearances as possible, especially if you have a younger guy that was kind of stinging the ball a little bit in his debut. And I mean, if he's playing good defense and that's really the only thing that's keeping Frazier in the lineup and he's not hitting, I mean, I would rather see them give the nod to the younger guy if you're going to get kind of fairly similar outputs and then get IKF into a more comfortable, a better position for him, and a position that Nick Gonzalez probably was going to have a little bit of a hold on. I just am worried because it feels like that the Pirates are like, God, I'm gonna knock on wood, but just like one injury away from like the cookie crumbling here. It's kind of being like held together. I mean, not very efficiently. We do know that Nick York. Everybody's people would say, well, where's Nick York? Well, he's on the IL in AAA as well, so you don't even have him to come up to be that right-handed option at second base. Try to mount some shortstop, some third base, whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean, with these injuries that we kind of didn't expect. I mean, didn't see a broken ankle from Nick Gonzalez, didn't see a back issue from Triolo, have kind of caused this issue, but maybe make a little bit of the best of it and say, hey, Adam, you stood out there on second base for the first couple of weeks here, and we really, really appreciate that. Defense has been really good. The bat's just not really playing. We're going to give Chang a little bit of a extended run here. Obviously, you're going to get some playing time as well, but you kind of have to be honest with him in that because, I mean, if his name wasn't Adam Frazier and he was a second baseman you signed for $1 million, would he be given or would you expect him to be given that much of a rope? No, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
he's hitting what like oh, I have it here in front of me. Um, Not very impressive, 158. So, and I don't think I was trying to look at the splits, and I'm hoping I was reading it correctly. No hits off a lefty. Neither he nor Cruz have any hits off lefties yet this season. So, yeah, you give the young guy the opportunity to prove, or at least what I think is important for a young guy is to get a feel for what the major leagues is really like. So when they go back to AAA, they know what they need to work on. They have that experience. They've lived it a little bit. They know what to work on. But it's not just the infield where we're seeing some new players. Canario came in the outfield, and I know that I said last week that I was done with G1 Bay, which I am. But I'm a big believer in the eye test and Canario, and I know he was part of the Chris Bryant trade. He was a big part of the Cubs' hopes. But we're seeing why they DFA'd him, why the Mets gave up on him. There's a lot of swing and miss there, which we knew when we talked about it. Not much production yet, and on the base paths, he just doesn't seem to have a feel for base running.
no, and even in the field, I mean, just kind of like overrunning a baseball. I saw the one time and not being able. And I mean, like I said, I take some of this out because like we gave Harrington the benefit of the doubt of his first game with like jitters and stuff, and to be like in a new city, a new situation, different things like that. But like you said, some of it is just like okay, like how long are we, really going to let this go on? Was this,
Yeah.
a substitution or an entrance for, for Tommy Pham, who, I mean, like I said, even at the beginning of the season, like we said, and at least I said, I won't put this on you, but said, okay, I'd like another outfielder.
Hmm.
Well, you got one. I would like another, infielder. Well, you got one in Frazier, but you also have to not rely on those because I saw those more as like a fourth outfielder and a bench piece. And now they're becoming bigger pieces of that. And if Tommy Pham's struggling and you're putting Canario in, who is also struggling, and I mean, Kutch has made a couple of nice plays in the outfield, but I think I texted you a line from a Toby Keith song. What is it? I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good
I'm as good
once
once as I ever
as I
was. Yeah.
was. And I'm just like, I know that he could probably still do it. And he's a proud, proud man. And, he does still have some wheels to a degree. But I mean, you also know that if he's out there, there's more risk for injury. I think that there's also more risk for a decline
Hmm.
in the hitting. A lot of times players switch to that DH because it elongates their career. I mean, if Kutch is out there for 3, 4, 5 times, a week in the outfield, I know that Reynolds is throwing now, so hopefully that's a short term, solution to have him out there. But yeah, I mean, it opens it up for it's like a can of worms that you don't want to see happen because then, like I said, you see that one injury and then what happens, kind of to the rest of the lineup.
Yeah, and I appreciate you absolving me of the Tommy Pham thought there because I do remember we had a conversation. I don't remember if it was on air or if it was off, and we were talking about different free agent targets that the Pirates might go after. And you said Tommy Pham, and I wrinkled my nose, and I said he's got that Cardinal stink on him, and I wasn't too interested. And it's he's got an attitude, and maybe that's what this team needs. I think he's performed in big moments, so we may be stuck with him a little bit longer. Um, but going forward, somebody needs to step up at some point. And yeah, it was. We also talked about our concerns with Reynolds being forced to the DH. What was that going to do for Kutch? And he may have found the fountain of youth, at least for the opening, homestand, and the short ground that has to be covered in right field at PNC Park. He made some great catches, a couple of really nice running catches. But yeah, you're not going to be able to expect Andrew McCutcheon to do that for any extended period of time and keep up his bat. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Tommy Pham would come out and have the start that he had last season with the White Sox, where he was on fire for about a month and a half, and then cooled off, and then ended up being traded. Yeah, has definitely struggled, but comes up in big moments,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like his teammates kind of do like him and rally around him and want him to succeed, and that's kind of the biggest thing to me here, um, is that like me and you, I think, are on a very similar wavelength of we want this team to succeed. And I
Yeah.
don't really care who the players are on that team that make the Pirates get to the playoffs, to make them successful, kind of whatever it may be. I took the stance a couple years ago that basically, yeah, I do have a fan hat on, and that my emotions kind of get into the game, but that fan hat for being like a over the heels fan for like a certain player, like I'm about to be 46 years old. Like those days are kind of past me. I mean, a lot of these players that are on this field are, you know, I could be their father kind of at this point in time. So like I could be a fan of them, I could be a fan of their play, but I'm not like for me, Pirates is number one. Your name on the back is number two. And that's kind of where I'll go from there. So if some of these big things can ignite Tommy Pham for a week or two,
Mm-hmm.
at some point in time, and it benefits the Pirates, if he's going to throw out a guy at home plate on a heads up play, because I think that's one thing that even though he's older, slower, that he will probably still do is be aware of the game situation, be aware of what base a person has to go to, different stuff like that. Yeah, I want that to happen. I just kind of thought that, at some point in time, a younger player would come and overtake that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Sawinski is as hot as he was in spring training and as happy as I was about as hard as he was hitting the ball. Just hasn't looked very comfortable at the plate. Thought he would be the guy to do it. Obviously, we were big on Nicky G before the season started with an injury. So, I mean, I'm just kind of like thinking, like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of down to, okay, O'Neill,
Yeah.
Reynolds, Cabrian, McCutcheon. It's still some of the same stuff. And then
Bart.
Bart. Oh, yeah, Joey. That he's, like I said, if I was going to be a fan of anybody, I'd probably be a fan of him because he just seems like just like a a good baseball player, and I like to see that success story of a guy that was so highly touted,
Mm-hmm.
maybe flounder to a degree, and then go someplace else. And he didn't do it for a whole year last year. Don't know what this year is going to look like, but definitely has embraced, being a Pittsburgh Pirate, being a part of the city, and has backed it up at times.
Well, here's the thing with Bart. What was number two overall pick, right? But also because of COVID and Buster Posey sitting out the COVID year, he got fast tracked, and so sometimes that can be a detriment to a player in their development. So it was nice to see the Pirates give some faith to him and give him an opportunity. But if I go back to like Canario and G1 Bay, and this isn't a few years ago where they can give every opportunity to an Anthony Alford and just run him out there over and over again. We're at the point where winning has to be the priority, and they've said it's the priority. Can he help the team win right now? No. Okay, bye. So that's what it has to be right now. You can't just hang your hopes on these guys. Well, if they were doing that, would we still have Andujar? Who went to the Athletics and is kind of shown that if he would have been in right field for us last year with the year that he had last year in Oakland, what does that team look like? And I think that he was a guy that I had hopes for. I was surprised when they DFA'd him for Kutch. But the point is that you know Bart is maybe one of those guys that he came on hot last year, but we're not in a position to give guys endless opportunities to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with picking up a guy that does have a pedigree like Canario and saying, okay, we just don't see it right now. we took you a flyer on you. It's time to move on. Bring somebody else up. Um, it's time to win and not just be the proving ground for these young players.
Yeah, I mean, and you have, other guys on the 40 man that may have, not had exactly the same pedigree, but you have a Billy Cook down there. You have a Matt Gorski down there.
Gorski, yeah.
Could somebody come up and, but unfortunately, like, I feel like that's in some ways is going to feel a little bit like kind of like when we were cycling through. I mean, I know people are going to have flashbacks because of the play at home plate and, a play at home plate that another player had, but like a Will Craig, and
Yeah.
just bring him up. I mean, I know it's going to have, some of those different types of feelings, but I would also just like to see the Pirates, if you're going to do this and whatever the leash is going to be on Canario, and that's why I would probably say I'd be, more likely to give that leash to Chang. It's because those guys have, you know, some of those guys have been in your system. You've kind of got to see them. You know what it's going to happen. Just at least kind of maybe if you're going to do this, then maybe give them their shot until you have, a healthy Reynolds. You have, Spencer Horwitz back up. Hopefully Triolo back up. Nick Gonzalez. Whenever he comes back, and try to. I mean, I guess do two things at once. Try to win, but then also try to filter through these guys to see if it's somebody that should stay on the 40 man, like Oliver Peguero, who's been on the 40 man for, I think this is his fourth season on there. Is it really going to be enough? Is that kind of going to last? I was actually surprised that Chang was the call up, ahead of, you know, Figueroa, but I mean, Figueroa does not play as good a defense. If you're looking for the defensive minded stuff of that, then okay. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing right now and that's maybe a little bit more of a frustrating part is, we are this far into this rebuild and have, those many guys that, I mean, every team has those, but it feels like we have a ton of guys that, and if they were removed from the 40 man tomorrow, I wouldn't even bat an eye.
Yeah. Yeah. You see so many guys come and go. CSN, Swaggerty, you know. Sorry, I tuned out there for a second because you mentioned the Will Craig play, and I got mad at Adam Frazier. So, if he would have just covered first base and had Craig throw to him, there were two outs, and it would have been a moot point at the plate. Yeah. Anyway, every time
we could talk about a nice thing that Palacios get another shot with the White Sox, and Palacios type guy, like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have those situations where you're gonna burn through these players. You're gonna DFA them. A certain percentage of them are gonna make it through waivers. They're gonna stay in your system, and maybe Canario ends up being that kind of guy. But you know, this wave of the rebuild, because that's the way that Charrington, I think, envisioned the rebuild and this building, I guess he called it, was to have waves, right? This first wave hasn't really worked out the way we wanted it to, but if you can kind of tread water and get that next wave to come up, your Termars, your Bubbas, your, you know, maybe your Gorskis, guys like that, maybe they can be that. Maybe you're going to have a certain number of guys that come up, but if you have one or two of those guys that really hit, then, we're talking about a whole different situation.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think he realized that and saw that, for a little while there we thought that the hitting with, like you're talking about, like a CSN, different people like that, was ahead of the pitching. Well, now the pitching has like kind of lapped the hitters. He goes out, he gets a Billy Cook and a York to kind of backfill the upper minors of that. So, maybe when York comes back and is healthy, that's kind of the thing that I would like to see, as opposed to, yeah, I was fine with the Canario thing. But to me at this point in time, like, I think that at some point in time, you're going to have confidence in those guys. You brought them up at the end of last year. If Canario doesn't work out, instead of going and grabbing, the next guy that drops off of another roster, I'd rather see like, Billy Cook getting a shot someplace. I know he can play the defense at least, so he's not going to hurt you in that aspect. And, you're basically working a lot of these as platoons anyway, especially with, Sawinski at this point in time, yeah, I mean, Cook would fit right into that.
Yeah, there's only so many cast-offs you can take from other teams. It's one thing if you are like the Rays and you have pitching gurus that feel like they can fix guys that have a high pedigree. We haven't proven that we can develop and fix hitters. So just taking somebody else's 27th man is not going to get us that much closer to winning a championship.
Yeah, and I didn't even get into the bullpen tonight, and I know I could, but then we would be here for another 35, 40 minutes, to kind of wrangle through that. But I mean, the biggest thing right now is for me is front office, make it right with the fans and on the field, be more strong maybe in your convictions as to where people should play and kind of play them there. And I know that, roles have to adapt throughout the season with injuries and different stuff like that. But if you saw Frazier as a bench piece, which is what I think they saw him as at the beginning of the year, figure out a way to make him a bench piece, because it really doesn't make your team much stronger if he's out there sitting at second base every day.
If you can make pierogies on a hot dog work, you can fix this roster.